It's a story of a forbidden forest. The chronicle of a fallen giant and the quest to fill its place. It's the culmination of a carefully crafted storyline and an innovative intermingling of old and new. After years of planning and months of round-the-clock construction, it's almost the moment of truth for Busch Gardens Williamsburg officials. Today is just weeks before the launch of Verbolten, the ambitious replacement of one of the Virginia destination's most popular rides. When it's complete, Verbolten will launch riders twice through a layout half enshrouded in darkness, half enveloped by natural terrain. Its storyline will take riders deep into the Black Forest, where they'll encounter one of 3 scenarios, ending with the first free-fall drop on the continent. Larry Giles surveys progress at the construction site. As the park's vice president of design and engineering, he knows the ride needs to be open to eager crowds before the end of spring. 24 years at the park also means he remembers the reign of the Big Bad Wolf all too well.
We're currently in the Verbolten station. This is where you're going to get on the car. This is where you're going to see these vintage sports cars come pulling up, and you're getting ready to get into it. This also happens to be the Big Bad Wolf Q station too.
It was 2009, the 25th anniversary of a landmark attraction. Billed as the first successful modern suspended coaster, Big Bad Wolf glided beneath 2,800 feet of track, terrorizing a quaint Bavarian village and rampaging through the forest before tackling an 80-foot drop toward the park's Rhine River. Big Bad Wolf had been a milestone not only in roller coaster history, but also in millions of younger guests' lives, as a stepping stone to the even bigger, badder, newer rides. But now, 29 million riders later, Busch Gardens announced Big Bad Wolf's departure. On September 7th, 2009, the screams faded away into the woods, and the coaster was removed piece by piece, never to operate again.
About 3 years ago, our company started looking at replacing Big Bad Wolf, and that ride was such a great ride, so popular with our guests, that we knew we had a lot of responsibility.
We've known for a while that there was an end to when Big Bad Wolf could run. It was built in a time when computer technology was not as available during the design phase. We had to make a decision between, do we keep Big Bad Wolf or do we go in a different direction? And we chose to go to the Verbolten direction because of what is available today in the technology.
To tie in with the 2-year renovation of the surrounding Oktoberfest Germany-themed section, the park and its corporate design teams collaborated on a theme for the future attraction.
We start with the story. We wanted to talk about the interesting things that are happening outside the village of Germany. So we had a couple folklores to work with, but the Legend of the Black Forest was the strongest, and that's the one that we decided to move forward with. So once we knew that, we decided to develop the characters to get us out of the village of Oktoberfest and into the Black Forest, so we developed Goethe and Gunther, who you'll meet here in the queue line.
We've been actually talking about this for quite a while. We've been talking about a vehicle or car coaster. Germany is known for vehicles and cars and sports cars.
The ride's auto theme would also help fill the void of another recent removal, Le Mans Raceway, an antique car ride sacrificed in 2006 in the name of Griffin's Extreme Thrills. However, the main void created by both removals was a family ride void. So one of the main criteria for the new attraction became designing a coaster that was both thrilling and family-friendly.
Whenever you talk about coasters, you always worry that you're going to exclude a lot of families, and that's why we really wanted this to be a family coaster. That's why we really pushed for the 48-inch height requirement. That's why we also made sure we didn't go upside down. But with Le Mans being taken out when we did Griffin, we wanted to ensure that we had a family ride that they could all ride together.
Other criteria included reutilizing the second half of the Big Bad Wolf's layout,
A lot of the Big Bad Wolf track exists in what we call an RPA, a resource protection area. One of the things we wanted to do, and we're working with our local county group, is to minimize any disturbance in that area. We reused a lot of the Big Bad Wolf foundations. We purposely laid the track on top of those foundations in that RPA area to minimize environmental impacts. It allowed us to give a tip to the hat to Big Bad Wolf.
Finally, designers wanted to hide a unique new first half of the ride in darkness, inside what they would refer to as the show building. Now, it was time to get in touch with potential manufacturers.
We told them what we wanted the ride to do, where we wanted the ride to do those elements. We knew 3 or 4 major things we wanted to happen in the show building that were critical to the show elements. We bid that out to multiple ride vendors, and we received those bids back, and they showed us what the ride would look like, and Zier came back with the best possible ride experience.
With the selection of Zier, coincidentally a German ride manufacturer, plans neared completion. Utilizing the existing station, the train would depart through a similar S-turn to the defunct coaster. However, in place of the Big Bad Wolf's first chain lift, a launch would propel the train into the show building. Its enclosed half would end with the first of its kind free-fall drop in North America, then a second launch in place of the Big Bad Wolf's second lift. Finally, Verbolten would rejoin the defunct coaster's layout for a final drop, turn, and S-curve into the brakes. Overall, the ride would edge past its predecessor for speed, length, and drop depth. As the 5-acre site started to transform, Zier constructed and tested a portion of Verbolten at their German facilities so designers could confirm both its technical and experiential qualities.
We went over there. It was a very interesting experience. So imagine a giant warehouse on the wharf of a shipping yard in Germany with a coaster in the middle of it, and all around the bottom were these German welders building ship parts. And myself and Michael Denninger went over there. He's our corporate ride engineer, and we rode the ride. And we are both big screamers, like to scream when we ride things, and we rode it blindfolded, so it would be dark, just like we have here in the show building. So we put on our blindfolds, we screamed, and everybody in the entire building stopped working and watched us. It really vetted the fact that it was going to be thrilling, it was going to be exciting, and it did everything that we wanted it to do.
Back in Virginia, a crew of up to 150 worked around the clock to keep the ride on schedule for the better part of the next year, despite a hurricane in the fall, freezing temperatures in the winter, and the constant challenge of working around the natural surroundings. The Big Bad Wolf's legacy began visibly living on through a recycled queue building, station, first S-turn, final drop, and final S-turn. With the final silver track section bolted down, it was about time to put Verbolten to the test.
We have a comprehensive 3-part process that we go through. First, the ride manufacturer tests the ride. Then we accept the ride from the manufacturer, we put team members on it, and then we do final testing, and then, and only then, is it open to the public.
My very first ride was actually with Larry Giles in the front seat. We had pre-programmed everything based on what we thought we wanted, and we didn't use really much of that. We kind of recreated the whole show once we got on the ride and realized what was good and what was better from a rider point of view. And my biggest takeaway from it was like, it is probably 3 times as fast as I thought it would feel inside that show building. And so we made a lot of show edits, 10 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning for about a week, riding this ride repeatedly and changing it.
The first ride's always very special when you've been working on a project for 2 years. Of course, we rode with the lights on so we could see everything. A lot of times when you do a ride, you get a little disappointed with some aspects of it. There's not much that got any of us disappointed. You always worry about, is that just me or other people think the same way? And just seeing the experiences that other people are having on it, seems like it does really deliver just like we'd hoped.
The ride surprised me in a lot of ways. The part I particularly liked is the acceleration when you come out of the event building, and then that ends in the drop towards the Rhine River, and there's a lot of speed. I was very surprised.
At the back of Busch Gardens' 400 acres, the Verbolten experience begins amid evidence of past rides gone wrong, thanks to the Black Forest's mysterious trees. There, Oktoberfest visitors meet brother and sister, Gunter and Gerda, who invite them to tour the Bavarian countryside on their vintage sports cars. Just stay out of the Black Forest, they advise. Once one of 5 uniquely fashioned trains pulls up to the loading platform, the next 16 guests secure lap bars into place and prepare to depart on the scenic tour. Heeding Gerda and Gunter's admonition, riders take a left turn from the station. However, the coaster changes its mind and takes a sudden turn to the right, straight toward the dreaded Black Forest. A first linear synchronous motor launch propels riders into darkness, then weightlessness as they drop. The ride's twister section begins with a heavily banked turn to the right, then an upward helix to the left. The speed eases up briefly, but then Verbolten banks to the left and dives into utter blackness. The course rises back up and the train slows down again as menacing theming encroaches on riders. Now, it's time for Verbolten's single most unique element, the free fall drop. Suddenly, the entire section of track the train rests on free falls 16 feet. The coaster wastes no time getting back to the action with a dip down into the second launch at 55 miles an hour. An S-curve climbs over the terrain only to send cars onto a creaking bridge 9 stories up. With a panoramic view, the cars plunge off the bridge 88 feet toward the water, banking left, then right. Cars bound over a final hill and curve left into the break after 2,835 feet of track.
Today's significance is that Busch Gardens is owning what it does best, and that's all family entertainment. Verbolten is a quintessential manifestation of that for our guests.
For Larry, Verbolten's debut represents the fruition of the generation-spanning appeal the park strove for with the 2012 ride.
You know, from those expectations, I think after I've ridden it and after other people have ridden it, Verbolten really does deliver. After all the work, you know, all the people that worked so hard on this project, to see the results is just very satisfying and very exciting.
I stood at the exit and I watched guests get off, and I saw their smiles and their reactions, how they were saying that, hey, the ride was awesome. To me, that's the culmination of 2.5 years of hard work, and that's the best part of my job.
Fans who remember Big Bad Wolf and remember the great times they had on it, I would invite them to come out and check out Verbolten. I think once they get off, they'll say, I like the Big Bad Wolf, it was a great ride, but you know, Verbolten is a great ride too.
Through Verbolten, a ride that thrilled millions over 25 years lives on in new form.